So, what really runs the world? I mean, is it money? Politics? Tech? Well, the truth is, it's something way more fundamental, something ancient. It's stories. And in this explainer, we're going to see how these narratives aren't just for, fun. They are literally the code that shapes our entire reality, from the global economy all the way down to that little voice inside your head.
Okay, let's just start with this proverb. Tell me a story, and it will live in my heart forever. Wow. I mean, that just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? We all get this on a gut level. Facts and figures, yeah, they live in our brains. But a story finds its way into your heart, and it just stays there. It kind of becomes a piece of who you are. But here's the big twist. What if that personal, heartfelt feeling is just the tip of the iceberg? What if stories aren't just personal, but structural? What if they're the invisible operating system running all of human civilization? Now that's the wild idea we're going to chase down today. All right, let's start at the very beginning, with us, Homo sapiens. What is it that really separates us from every other animal out there? It's not just our big brains or our opposable thumbs, right? Our actual secret weapon, our superpower, is this unique ability we have to create and believe in stories. The historian Yuval Noah Harari makes this brilliant case. He argues that our entire species' dominance boils down to one single skill that nobody else has: flexible cooperation in massive numbers. So what's the engine that powers this kind of teamwork? You guessed it, shared stories. Just think about this for a second. It's fascinating. You've got ants, right? They cooperate by the millions, but it's totally rigid, hardwired. Then you have chimps. They can be flexible, creative, but only in small groups, where everybody knows each other. We're the only creature on the entire planet that can do both. We can cooperate flexibly with millions, even billions of complete strangers.
So that leads to the big question. How? I mean, how is that even possible? How can we collaborate with millions of people we will never ever meet in our entire lives?
Well, the answer is simple, but it's profound. It's because we believe in the same stories. These shared narratives, they act like a kind of social glue. Think about it. Over 1.4 billion people in the Catholic Church are united by the stories in the Bible. Another 1.4 billion citizens in China are connected by the story of their nation. And pretty much all 8 billion of us participate in a global economy built on, shared stories. Stories about the value of a piece of paper we call money, or the idea that a company is a person.
Which brings us perfectly to one of the biggest story battles happening right now, the two competing narratives that are fighting for the very soul of artificial intelligence.
So in one corner, you have the story of the productivity blessing. This is the super optimistic, utopian vision, right? It's backed by research suggesting AI could boost worker performance by almost 40% and just unleash this massive new era of economic growth. But in the other corner, you have the job loss curse. That's the dystopian fear that AI is going to make millions of us white-collar workers totally obsolete. So yeah, it's a classic showdown, utopia versus dystopia. But our job here is to look past the headlines, past the hype. So let's ask the big question. What does the actual data tell us right now? And you know what? To understand the data today, we actually have to look back in time. Because it turns out we have seen this exact kind of story war play out before. This takes us to a phenomenon from the 1980s that should feel eerily familiar. It's called the Solow paradox. So back in 1987, an economist named Robert Solow pointed out something really weird. He said, "You can see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity statistics." Think about that. The hype around personal computers was completely off the charts, but the actual economic numbers, they were totally flat. And you can really see how this played out. After this huge post-war boom, productivity growth just slowed to a crawl. And this was right when computers were supposed to be changing everything. It actually took into the late 1990s. We're talking over a decade after Solow's paradox for that promised productivity surge to finally show up in the numbers. Economists have a name for this. It's called the J-curve. You get this initial dip or plateau, and then, boom, a sharp rise. And does this sound familiar? Because it's a perfect illustration of where we are right now with AI. The story is absolutely inescapable. The hype is everywhere you look. But just like with computers back in the day, the hard economic data seems to be telling a very, very different story. In fact, check this out. A recent study from the National Bureau of Economic Research came out with some stunning findings. It shows that for nearly 90% of companies, AI has had zero measurable impact on their productivity. Let that sink in. Right now, the reality on the ground just has not caught up with the incredible story we're all being told.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's not that the AI story is wrong.
not at all. It's that turning a truly world-changing story into a world-changing reality, that takes time. It can take years, sometimes even decades, of groundwork and adjustment before we see the payoff.
But hold on, here's another twist in the plot. Sometimes a story doesn't even need to become reality to have incredible power. Get this number, 56%. That is how much Kenya Airways stock jumped in just 2 months. So was it because of record profits? Some brilliant new business plan? Nope. It was all because of a rumor. A simple story. Just the idea that a major airline might invest was enough to send the stock soaring. This is just a perfect example of a story's power in its purest form. The narrative itself, the story, mattered more and moved more money than any actual financial data on the books.
Okay, so let's recap. We've gone from stories organizing all of humanity to stories moving global markets. Now, let's zoom all the way in, from the biggest picture imaginable to the smallest. Let's talk about the single most powerful storyteller you will ever meet.
This quote from Michael Singer just hits so hard. Most people try to fix their inner problems by getting better at the same external games they have always played. And we all do this, don't we? We have some problem inside, some anxiety. And what do? We try to fix it by playing the same external games, telling ourselves that same old story, oh, if I just get that job or that relationship or that car, then I'll finally be happy.
And that's because the most persistent, most convincing storyteller in the entire universe isn't some famous author or some powerful CEO. It's that constant voice inside your own head. That narrator, it's working 24/7, constantly weaving a story about who you are, what your life means, and where you fit into the whole shebang.
And so, this is where we're going to leave it. That voice, it's telling you a story right now, this very second, as you're listening to me. It's taking all the random dots of your life and connecting them into a story. So the final and maybe the most important question of all is this. Is the story it's telling you the right one?